Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom, he is terming out. He's running for governor, of course, you might have heard. So somebody needs to take his job. And former U.S. Ambassador Kounalakis says she's the best person for it. Kounalakis, so good to see you.
Well, it's nice to see you. It's great to be back.
Yeah, last time you were here, October of last year.
That's right.
A lot has changed since then. You finished, what, on top of the primary, didn't you?
That's right. I came in first in the primary, and now there are just two of us. There were 11 before on the ballot. Now there are just two of us going into the general election in November.
And I'll ask you about your competitor here in a little bit, but I did want to start with you, your background, because you believe strongly in environmental protections. You're also a developer by trade. And a lot of people argue that it's environmental protections that are really hurting development and business growth in California.
Well, look, these are very complex and also very emotional issues, and I spent about 18 years sitting at one side of the table, the side of the applicant, the business person trying to get things done. There were neighbors, there were environmentalists, there's government, but when you spend 18 years working together, you do start to develop respect, respect for the other stakeholders that you work with, and I have worked very hard to make sure that as I have served in government, I've always been able to try to keep all the perspectives, because frankly, it's really when we work together through a stakeholder process that we get better results. But of course, ultimately, we have to get to decisions that will serve our people.
Can we speed up the process, though? Because as you were telling me last time, we should be growing with 180,000 new developments for housing every single month, right? Or was it year? But we're doing less than 100,000 of that. We're way behind.
Well, that's right.
How do we speed up?
What we were talking about last time is the housing crisis.
Sure.
And the fact that we simply have not built enough housing over the last 2 decades plus to accommodate the growth that we have in this state, and that it's a natural result that you're going to have an increase in housing prices as a result of the lack of supply. You're going to have people and businesses leaving the state looking for locations where it's less expensive, and you're also going to have more pressure on the homeless problem. So I do believe that we need to increase the number of housing units that California delivers every year. But I also believe that we can do it in a way that makes sure that our most sensitive areas of California continue to be protected.
There's a lot of farmers here and communities in the Central Valley who are very angry right now with what they see as state water board control, trying to take more water, move it out of the rivers, and well, not move it out of the rivers, keep it in the rivers for environmental concerns rather than diverting it for their farms and the communities. Do you see their point? You talk about seeing everybody's perspective here.
Well, again, there really is almost nothing more contentious than water in California.
Especially here.
But it's absolutely essential that we have water for our people, for our families. You know, I was here in Fresno. I've been here quite a few times on the campaign trail. In one of my visits, some local folks brought me out into people's homes to open the water tap and show me the level of turbidity in the water, the brown, dirty water that's coming out. One mother told me she cannot put her child in the bathtub because the water is so bad. So we have got to pay attention to the needs of our children and our families. But again, we also want to make sure that we protect our natural resources, that we continue to have a robust salmon run. I mean, these things all matter, and I think that as contentious as it can get, it really is only through this kind of boxing match type process that we ensure that all of the voices are heard. But ultimately, we have to make sure, as we're looking at the environmental side, that we are very focused on the actual science, and we are investing in the actual science so that we're making these decisions with the best possible information.
We were just chatting off camera about the wildfires and about how this is becoming kind of the new normal for California every single year. And it's not just property that we're losing people, we're losing firefighters. And there is an argument to be made. We've seen the president sound off on stuff, whether or not you agree with exactly what he said about water policy when it comes to this. But how we manage our forests. A lot of people say it's mismanagement that has at least helped lead to this problem. Do we need to look closer at opening up some clearing out of the forest in some way? Bring in loggers?
The paradigm has completely changed.
Yeah.
I have been now in multiple of these sites where the fires have ravaged communities and forests. The winds are unlike anything we've ever seen before. I went to up in Sonoma where housing developments were vaporized, where there was almost nothing left.
With last year's fires in the wine country, terrible.
And no one has ever seen anything like this. So the winds, which appear to be connected to the shifting climate as a result of climate change, the dryness of our forests and of our natural areas, which is also appears to be connected to climate change. We are in a new paradigm. We've got to take another look at how we do everything, because we cannot assume that these fire seasons, which are now year-long, are going to just stop on their own. So I think everything is on the table in terms of forest management, in terms of how we fight the fires, in terms of ensuring that our firefighters have adequate resources. We have to look at this differently. And I also know that the people of the state of California certainly notice, and they are demanding that leadership is doing everything possible for disaster preparedness in our state.
I'm out of time, but I said I was going to mention, so 30 seconds here.
Yes.
You're going up against State Senator Ed Hernandez.
I am.
Another Democrat.
Correct.
30 seconds, how do you separate yourself, and how should voters separate you?
I'm a businesswoman. I spent 18 years creating jobs and delivering moderately priced housing for families, for working families in this state. So I'm a can-do person. I know how to get things done. But I also spent 4 years working as a United States ambassador, a very senior level government official.
In Hungary. Yeah.
In Hungary, but we had almost 400 U.S. government employees. So I understand how government works as well. And I think the combination is going to be great for California. And if I'm elected, I'm going to be the first woman ever elected lieutenant governor in California. So it's a glass ceiling race as well.
Elena Kounalakis running for lieutenant governor. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate the time.
Thank you.
And coming up after the break, are California's environmental laws causing wildfires to explode? Our president certainly thinks so, especially when it comes to water policy. Our panel weighs in on this next.